Let's talk about the political import with you. Republican lawmakers in specific are going to be paying close attention to this. What are they and you going to be looking for?
Well, one of the major things we'll be looking for is the budget target that they're trying to meet, $2 billion in savings in order for this health care bill to comply with the rules in the Senate. If they don't meet that target of $2 billion in savings, it's possible that this bill would have to go back to the House, be reworked and tweaked and voted on again. And we saw how much trouble they had getting this through the first time. Just by a couple of votes, they were able to squeeze it through and pass it over to the Senate. Now with the CBO score coming out, that could all get blown up, and they could have to start from, not necessarily start from scratch, but make some changes and try to wrangle those votes again. So that's the most important number that we're looking at. Also, we will also be looking at how many people this health care bill will cover, how many people could lose their insurance. That's another big number we're going to watch when this number comes out.
Yeah, and Zach, let me turn to you on that point. You're going to be looking at sort of the practical implications of what's included in this bill. What are we going to see in that regard from the CBO today?
That's right. I think one thing we're going to be looking at is just the raw coverage number. How many people are going to lose their insurance? The last time CBO took a look at this bill, that was 24 million people losing their insurance in a decade. Most of the experts don't expect that to move a whole lot. And then once we do see that, we'll dig in. We'll say, what are the premiums going to do? What are the deductibles going to do? What kind of insurance are you really going to be able to buy under this bill? I think that is going to be the other thing that people really watch for here.
Let me tease that out a little bit if I could, Zach. What do we know, or what are experts saying about the ways in which coverage could change as a result of this bill?
One big question will be what happens to premiums. The initial evaluation of this bill found that in the next few years, premiums would actually go up quite a bit, 10 to 20%. And so that's a big concern for Senate Republicans when they start to work on their bill. So the question will be, have any of these changes done anything to bring down premiums? Deductibles also were found to go up in this bill. So that's another issue where people are going to say, my premiums are going up, my deductibles are going up. Is this the health care that I want?
Let me ask you, Toluse, just about how lawmakers are responding to the circumstances they're in at this point. There was that incredible piece by our colleague Billy House a couple of days ago. You're referring to that, pointing out, really, to a lot of lawmakers that this could happen, that they might have to vote on this bill once again. What are they saying about the political position that they're in right now? What's the White House saying about how they're watching all of this unfold?
Yeah, lawmakers in the White House, they've been criticizing the CBO for several weeks now, saying that they have a poor track record in trying to determine how a potential piece of legislation is going to impact people 5-10 years down the road. So you have heard some of that, some criticism of the CBO. Some of them are unhappy about the prospect that they may have to vote again on something that was so difficult to vote for, and they received so much political backlash over. So lawmakers and even the White House aren't too happy with the state they find themselves in. Some of them are just sort of waiting to see what this number will say, and then they'll take it from there, figure out how to manage it. A lot of them are very hopeful that this number will meet that target that they're looking for, so they won't have to vote for this again. So this is a very crucial time in Washington where we have a lot of bated breaths and lawmakers trying to see what's going to happen in the next few hours.
Zach, this isn't the first time that this piece of legislation has been scored. An earlier iteration was scored. What's changed between then and now? There's something called the MacArthur Amendment. Remind us what it is and sort of what was added on to this bill after that first scoring took place.
Sure. So there were really two big changes. One was some additional money, a few extra $1 billion for sick folks, for high-risk pools. The other is the MacArthur Amendment. So letting states use a variety of waivers to sort of take some of the rules out of their insurance markets. And it's an effort to bring down premiums. But it's really unclear what it would do and how CBO will evaluate it. So it's going to be a big challenge for them to come up with a score of it today.
How are companies, Zach, how are health insurance companies looking at what's coming out today? You had Aetna pulling out of all of the marketplaces for 2018. Other companies have made similar steps in that direction. What are they going to be looking for today?
I think health insurers are really focused on this customer base, this question of, if 24 million people are losing their insurance in a decade, that means less paying customers for me. If Medicaid is getting cut, that means less reimbursement for the health insurers that manage a lot of the Medicaid program. So they're going to be looking closely at this, saying, what does this mean for my business?
Toluse, with President Trump traveling overseas, who in the White House is responsible for keeping tabs on all of this? We heard from Mick Mulvaney, the OMB director, yesterday and today talking about the budget. But when it comes to health care, who there is speaking out on this issue right now?
Yeah, you're right. We did hear from Mick Mulvaney. We've also known that the Health and Human Services Director, Tom Price, is one of the main points of contact on this. But even as the president's overseas, his Twitter account yesterday, he used it to point out that Obamacare has struggled, and one of the studies that's being promoted by Republicans in Washington today comes from the Health and Human Services Department. It says that over the last 3 years in the individual market, premiums have gone up 105%. So we're hearing that from several Republicans shifting the tone and saying Obamacare has struggled, Obamacare prices have gone up, and that's one of the reasons that they need to do this repeal and replace effort.
So very quickly here, last question just about how this dovetails with the budget we got from the White House this week. A big assumption baked into that budget is this piece of legislation getting through Congress. Is the White House reckoning with how likely that is to happen?
Well, if you just look at the budget, it doesn't look like they are reckoning with the fact that the Senate is going to take this bill and make drastic changes. The budget includes a lot of the information that was in the House bill, but the Senate has said they're going to take their time. They're going to start from scratch. They have a much tighter margin to work with, so there are going to be those major changes. The White House didn't acknowledge that in their budget, but behind closed doors, they realize that this is a long journey ahead, and that there are going to be several changes before this, if it does, before it gets to the president's desk at some point, potentially this year, and if not, it could even bleed over into next year.